When you talk about change, you talk about time. And time can be forever when you're dealing with something such as murder, violence, and most importantly, hate. The reason why we on earth today, you, me, him, her, all these different walks of life, it's all a test. It's almost like an experiment, God's experiment. When are we gonna understand that we are put on earth to love? That's all it's about. Everybody want to figure out how complicated life is and break it down. This is what I truly think. I really think that it's going to keep going on. War going to keep going on. Frustration going to keep going on. Anger going to keep going on till we finally go back down to the simplest word, love. And when God sees that, then we have the answer. But until then, it's going to be warfare.
Episode 6 of Don't Get Lost in the Hype. This is with Jonny Servais of Servais Media from Kenosha. He is a videographer, filmmaker person. He shot Fred the Black Kid's Icarus music video. That's where I met him, and he also does a lot of commercial work. We discuss many things from, videography and spirituality, like I typically talk about with this podcast. So thank you everybody for listening. There's some changes coming to the podcast, some good changes, some big changes. Make sure you go support the New State at thenewstatemke.org. Especially, we need donations and everything. So yeah, not really much else to say. Enjoy this interview. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Man, I'm tired as fuck. I've been working so much lately, but
Dude, I know the feeling.
dude, okay, so what do you do besides shoot videos? Like what do you do for do you have like an actual job or not an actual job? I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. No,
No,
it is
it's
an
all
actual
good.
job, but damn it.
Yeah, no,
I'm already
this is,
screwed up. 20
You're
minutes.
good. You're good.
All right,
So
restart.
yeah,
No.
restart from the top. Yeah, no. So yeah, no. For the most part, this is all I do. Just videos and photos.
Right.
And then sometimes I find like good like odds and ends jobs. Like my mom owns a painting company, so I do find jobs with her sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes like I do like serving gigs, stuff like that. Just whatever I can like get my hands on if I need a little extra that month, you know?
Right. Damn, I feel like an ass now. I'm just like an actual job. Like shit. No, I have to realize.
When are you gonna get a real job?
No, that's the funny thing. Like I've heard of like, do you know the comedian Pete Holmes?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so
I also
listen
suck
to
with
his
names.
yeah. I listened to his podcast and he talks about how he's a stand-up, and he's been doing it for however long, and he was like, I reached the point where I was doing performances on like Conan or Jimmy Fallon or stuff like that. He was like, I was making money and going on tour and stuff like that. He's like, and I had an uncle who would be like, it's never too late to be a lawyer. Like, he's like, I'm on TV. Like, what the fuck do you want from me?
Dude, that's honestly like, yeah, that's just how it is. I feel like I'm used to it just from like years of like I worked at McDonald's for a while. I worked at like Subway for a while. So like, I was like, whenever I went to like family reunions, like all my like cousins and stuff were in college. And I was like the one guy that was like, hi guys, I'm still working at McDonald's, figuring out my life. Don't hate me.
Right.
Like,
No, man. So let me ask you how, like, I mean, I don't want to get too far into this because there's so much we can cover right now, but like,
no, go for it.
How's shit going down there with everything going on?
In Kenosha?
Yeah.
So, well, I'm sure anything on the news is weirdly true.
Yeah.
So legit, like 3 blocks from my house, like is where like all the buildings were on fire.
Fuck.
You can literally that night you could walk out my front door and smell it. It was the weirdest thing. So, but I will say the last couple nights have been calm. I think all the like really angry people got their anger out, which I'm grateful for. And with that said, a lot of like the locals are like donating supplies and like getting together and making the town not like a complete trash. Like,
right.
Like we're slowly making it like less of a dark part of history, and I appreciate it.
Right. I've been seeing what like what Nate's been doing with,
Yeah,
you know,
Nate's been doing a great job with like helping the town, and I appreciate him.
he's been killing it. He's got, you know, the help with like Webster Rex and shit, and
Hmm.
everybody, like, that's the thing is like, we as humans, we dive into chaos a lot, but
Hmm.
we always seem to know how to like kind of pull ourselves back out,
Right.
if that
That's
makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. It's kind of honestly refreshing seeing how many people are like stepping up to like help the town, because like this is, I don't know, when you live in a small town for so long, you just assume that everyone's trying to get out. So like
Well,
it's
that's what everyone says though. Like, how many
yeah.
times, I don't know, like, how long have you lived in like Wisconsin or Kenosha?
I've lived in Kenosha my whole life, so
Okay. So have you, I'm sure you have, but have you heard everybody's just like, oh, I got to get out of Wisconsin. I got to get
I
out of
gotta get out of
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
And it's just like, yes, like I get it, because, you know, you want something new, you want something fresh, but don't you realize that no matter where you go, your problems are going to follow you? Like the same shit, you're going to deal with the
Yeah.
same shit in LA as you are going
Hmm.
to here, just maybe
Right.
a bit sunnier. Like,
Dude, I get it. So actually, so I am actually planning on running away from the state end of the year,
well,
um,
hey,
but with that said, I have been telling everyone I plan on coming back. Like, I don't like have any intentions of being like, screw this town, I'm never
of
coming
course.
back. Like, Kenosha is honestly forever home, and one thing I've learned from like the extensive amount of traveling I've been blessed with lately, is like everywhere is exactly the same. Like
Yeah.
there is no greener grass anywhere. Sometimes there's more opportunities in a certain place, but other than that, like it's what you make it. You can have the
Right.
same success here that you will in LA. Like
Right. No, that's 100% true. And I think it's almost better to, well, I don't want to say that because everybody's path is different, but it's almost better
yeah.
to like stay with the place that has so much potential
Hmm.
rather than like go where everybody's like congested, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for
But
real.
at the same time, there are better opportunities, like you were saying. Like, the reason why everybody goes to LA is because there's a lot of shit there to do, and
Hmm.
same with Denver, same with like all these bigger places.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, if you really want to like watch something grow, like I was planning on leaving Wisconsin, like I'm, you know, but then I was like, well, shit, like I need to start doing something with music. Like I'm passionate with music, and that's how I kind of got involved with the new state. I figured it out, and as soon as
Nice.
I saw like what was going on with the new state, I was like, Milwaukee's about to blow up. I was like, I need to stay here and like work with this. Like I can't
I
be like,
I've been
but
noticing that though, actually. Like Milwaukee's doing some stuff. I'm really happy for it. Like
oh yeah. I mean, even with like sports, like the Bucks and stuff, like the past few years have been, even, you know, people are just going crazy about it. Like,
mhm.
I don't know, but I don't want to stay too much on Milwaukee and all this, but
Yeah,
okay.
no, for sure.
I'm going to start off with asking you a question that I ask all my uh, people that I interview.
I didn't prep you
So
for this. What's up?
this podcast is called Don't Get Lost in the Hype. I
Okay.
want to ask you, what is hype to you? And is hype a good thing or is it a bad thing?
Um, okay. So don't get lost in the hype. In that sense of like the phrase, I would say the hype is there's like a lot of things you could replace the word hype with in that kind. So like I'm just trying to think of what the best answer is. I'd probably say the hype is probably somewhere around like social media and losing yourself as a person and like trying to keep up with the rest of the world.
Mm.
I'd say like being like forcing yourself to be an Instagram influencer is a great example of the hype, or like anything like that. Yeah, if I had to
Mm.
interpret it, and is it good or bad? Depends on the person. I know people who are like quote unquote influencers. They would never call themselves an influencer, but
Mm.
they make awesome progress with it. And I know people who let it destroy their life. So like I
Right.
think it's depends on the situation.
Yeah. No, I think that's an answer I keep getting, which, I mean, eventually I'm just gonna have to accept the fact that it's both good and bad. And I guess that's the irony of this show. The whole point of the show is very ironic because it's called Don't Get Lost in the Hype, but I'm somebody who gets lost in my own hype all the time. Like I'm always like if there's something I'm into or like some sort of drama I'm focused on or whatever, I'm always like really into it. Like, oh my God. And then I realize once it passes, I'm like, oh, that was nothing. That was a bunch of hype, like whatever. But the whole point is, I was listening to Ram Dass, who's a spiritual teacher. I don't know if you know much about him. But I was listening to him and he was talking about how, and this kind of goes along with, I was talking to you about possibly I want to shoot an ad or like a promo video for this.
Right.
And Ram Dass says like, and I'm just kind of misquoting a little bit, but he's talking about how when you go through life, there's so much ups and downs. There's happiness, there's sadness, there's grief, there's joy, there's the news, there's, social media, whatever it may be. There's stuff going on. He goes, it's all hype. He's like, don't get lost in it. Don't get caught in it. Like you can experience it. You can go through life and experience the things that you experience, but don't get caught in the bullshit, like the random things that grab you and grab your attention. And that's, I think it's a lesson that everybody kind of can get with, because we're all constantly getting caught in our own bullshit, whether we want to admit it or not. So I guess it's more of a reminder to like center yourself and stuff like that. So I guess, how do you not get lost in the hype throughout, whether it be with news? I mean, especially with like the way our political climate is and things just going on. Like, how do you like keep yourself centered? How do you keep yourself grounded amongst all the bullshit?
So that is a very packed question.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to answer that. So like when you were just talking, I was even thinking about Gary V. Do you follow him much? Yeah.
No, that's so weird that you just said that, because Dima was on here. We were getting set up, and he literally brought up Gary V. So
dude, Gary V. He's definitely a great example of someone who's made some like progress in this generation. But no, Gary V. So when you said like don't get lost in the hype, like how do you do all that? Like I thought of him right away, because what he always says is like when he gets asked the question like, oh, like how do you stay humble? How do you stop yourself from like getting big headed with such a huge following? Or like with your like business getting big, how do you like stop yourself from like losing yourself in that? And he's like, well, I just think, well, out of everything happening right now, if my mom died today, would I still be happy? Like, like sometimes you need that kick in the face of being like, yeah, you're right. Like this is all just, none of this means anything if like I got a call saying something drastic like that happened. So like I kind of like his answer on that. And then but in my personal life, so I would say I definitely try to like, I always try to look at myself from like an outside perspective and be like, all right, if I saw myself right now, what would I say? Stuff like that. But I also try to do things like, just not go crazy. Like
that's the goal.
The reality is like the world we live in, you have to embrace the hype. Like you can't, like, I don't know, at least the world I live in, like I have to the hype. I have to like, always be messaging people, always be emailing people, always be looking for the next step. And otherwise, I'm out of job. So like,
well, that's the irony of it, is like, to not get lost in the hype, you have to embrace it fully and take it as it is. Like diving into the chaos is sometimes the most beautiful thing you can possibly do. Like, not to get too on me, I'm just relating to what you were saying.
No, do it.
But a few months back, my mom, there was a bit of a thing that happened where my mom basically ended up in the hospital and was in a coma for a little bit. Yeah. Okay. And it was a weird time, because I had this weird, powerful spiritual experience the night before I found out that she went to the hospital. It was like this crazy thing. But the only thing that got me through it was being fully in the moment and being fully amongst the sadness and like the pain and everything. Like, oh, am I about to lose my mom? Like you had brought up, it was like, instead of worrying about it, being like, no, I don't want to see her. Like, instead of being like, so caught in my head, I had to just sit there and be with everything that was happening. And that's what kind of really got me through it. So like you were saying, also, that's kind of one thing I wanted to bring back to with asking you how you just stay grounded and stuff. You do a lot of video editing. And I'm somebody who knows, like, I'm not like, I don't claim to be this or that or whatever, but I know video editing is a very tedious and very long process of things.
Oh yeah.
how do you get through hours and hours and hours of
How do I
editing
how do I stay
without
sane in
going
all of that?
crazy? Like,
So one thing, uh, my biggest thing is I go to the gym every day. If
mm,
I don't go to the gym for a period of time, I legit fall into a depression. I like start like overthinking things, hating myself. Like it's just like so I like need like yeah, I just really use that as a way to like take myself back and be like, all right, you're good. Like
mm,
so and then obviously I try to do more than just edit. I try
of
my best to
course,
like
of
be
course.
on the field. But honestly, the place I want to be in life is where I'm a full-time editor, like just doing nothing but editing for other
Mm,
people, and take the money I'm making from that, paying bills, but then also working on like passion projects because like most of the stuff I do, like I almost feel like bad charging the artist because it's something I really want to do. So it's like, so like there's been so many times where it's like, yo, I want to like take your song and I want to make you into a freaking ninja and like I just want to do all this crazy stuff. And I know the artist is down, but they don't always have the funds to do what I want to
right.
like do with their stuff or like commercial work or stuff like that. So I'd love to be in a place in life where I'm doing nothing but like VFX work or editing work
Mm,
for other people and just like take all my free time and focus it on the art itself.
mm, that's
So
beautiful.
yeah,
Um, have you, well, okay, like these are some simple questions, but I got to get them out of the way so I can
do it.
get more into it. But how did you get started with video? Like what
So
was the thing that sparked the passion? Like what were you like, okay, I got to learn how to fucking do that.
all right, do you want the short version?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. If you want to
Cool.
just give me a little kernel and then we can expand on that, or we can just, do what you
So
want.
all right, so going into that then, actually, I kind of love that a lot of people don't remember this about me after all these years, but it's only been a few years though. But my biggest dream throughout like all of high school and all that is I actually was trying to make music, and
Mm,
I wanted to be an artist for a living, whether it be writing songs for people or just performing my own music. And I was huge on it. It was my biggest passion in the freaking world. I went to school for business to be able to learn how to like market myself and all that. And then but with that I ended up, promoting yourself involves having to post on Instagram. So I needed pictures, I needed videos, and
mm,
just kind of started off taking my phone and recording myself, taking pictures of myself, trying to get creative with the shots. And I was getting had a lot of fun just even doing that, just on my phone, learning how to like set up lighting, stuff like that, get really creative with it. And I learned very quick that it was something I loved, and it was something that I was fairly good at for like
mm,
a beginner. So the thing that like triggered it though, that made me like 180 and be like, no, I'm committing to this, was I did a photo shoot with my brother. Used to do um he used to do vape tricks on like Instagram. Like he was if he would still be going at it right now, he'd straight up be an influencer because his sponsorships, he was getting like he was like posting trick videos like every week. And like he was going hard. Like he like was like getting paid for it and only had like 300 followers type deal. Like he was
that's
going
dope.
hard. Yeah, so we did a shoot together. Like I did both video and photo. And the photo that I took, it was literally the video and photo was all on my phone, and it's still one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. And I remember taking it and like looking at it later and being like, wow, I could do this. Like so
No,
that's
yeah, that
yeah,
that's that moment made you realize like, okay, like this is legit. I love hearing stories like that because it almost feels like you kind of just stumbled into it. Like you were
right.
trying to chase something else and then it kind of just like, oh, okay. But
That's
that's
how it
what's
is though.
that's what's like mind blowing and beautiful about like life. Like I'm not trying to get too deep about it, but at the same
No,
time,
get
it's
deep.
like that's the whole point. It's expanding like shit. But with certain things, you think you want something, and so you chase after it, and you're like, why am I not getting this, or like why what's going on?
Hmm.
And it turns out like what you were chasing after was nothing more than a thing to step you in the right direction.
Yeah. And so one thing I'm always pushing for is I'm always trying to encourage people to like if you have a spark of passion for something, push into it. Because like
Yeah.
for example, I meet people all the time who are like beginning photographers, who are like, I love doing this, but I can never make a living out of it. I'm always like, who cares? Like, literally, like, just do it and
Yeah.
do it, learn you hate it, and move on. Like, you'd much rather do that than like turn 40 and be like, damn, I screwed up. Like,
Exactly. Well, and one thing that I don't remember where I heard this. I used to be into like different YouTube vloggers back before they were like, you know,
Right.
back, and one of them was talking about how just do, like, I know it sounds so simple and cliche, but it's like just do what you love and like the money will come. Like don't worry, like the this even goes back to like religion and
I
stuff.
love
Like
that. I forget where that, I've heard that before. I forget where
yeah,
he says that, but yeah.
yeah, and in the Bible it even says like look at the birds and the creatures of the forest. Like they don't worry about where their food comes from. They don't worry about this, that they just do what
I
they were
love that
wired
verse.
to do. So it's
Yeah.
like, that's what humans, we get, that's the whole point of Don't Get Lost in the Hype, is we get so
Right.
caught up in this identity of like, I need to be this and I need to be doing this and going there and doing this and doing that and stuff. But in reality, it's like, we're just doing what we're supposed to be doing. Like we're wired
Right.
to, like, obviously there's some, you know, shitheads out there and other things like that. A lot of
Life gets a little muddy.
yeah, it gets a little messy, but there, if you just do what you love to do and you do it without worrying about the money, without worrying about this and that, it all kind of falls into place.
Right.
It all kind of like, you know, if you're just doing it, it'll happen. So,
Right.
yeah, I want to ask you a little bit about that. I'm jumping all over the place here. It's been a long day, but
I love the ADHD like flow we got going on.
that's kind of my vibe. I'm trying to learn how to rein it in, but you know, it is what it is.
Right.
So going off of religion, did you grow up religious at all?
Yes, actually, very.
Yeah. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah. So growing up, I grew up Christian. My mom was very picky on which church we went to, just for the point of like she didn't want anyone.
Flavor?
Kinda, yeah. Like, well, more like because like I don't know, a lot of Christianity, like I hate to say it, but they all like to say they know the Bible better than each other.
Yeah.
So like it's like, so my mom kind of like grew up being like, no, what you're saying sounds weird. What you're saying sounds weird. We're gonna keep moving until we find someone who doesn't sound weird.
Right.
And after like 15 years of that, I kind of got tired of switching churches every week. So like we so eventually I ended up just sticking to a church. Ended up having a crazy journey actually in that. So it was like for years I was like, at one point I was convinced I was gonna be a pastor. So like I went really hard in it, and yeah, for years that was just my life. Yeah, and then I had a crazy fallout with it. A lot of trust issues with God, but now I'm in a point where I'm somewhere in the middle, trying to like
figure it all out.
Yeah, trying to remember how to trust him, but at the same time not feel like I'm just diving into this and screwing myself over. So
right. Well, that's like the hardest thing though, is and when you said you were like, oh, I thought I was going to be a pastor, like I never thought necessarily I was going to be a pastor, but I grew up in the church too. Like we were,
right.
I don't know what, we were technically non-denominational, but we were like evangelical or some shit. And I was very into it. And I thought, I don't know, I was going to be like a youth pastor, or I was going to be whatever it may be, a Christian rock star or some shit like that. Like
I had that dream for a minute.
Yeah. Like I was like, I'm going to, you know, I don't know, whatever. But, when you said you had, your fallout or whatever, was it just like, oh, a little kernel of doubt here, and then it kind of just started to slowly unravel? Or was there like something big that,
so to go into that, by the way, don't worry, I'm a completely open book, so don't feel bad for asking these questions.
Okay.
So to go into that real quick, so it kind of started as like a breakup. So I really felt that God was telling me that me and this girl didn't belong together, and looking back on it, it was completely right. So I talked to her about it, and I said, hey, I think we should spend some time apart. It's really what I'm feeling like God's trying to tell me. And she was very religious too, so I was hoping she'd understand. She did not. She got save like the argument there. Yeah, she didn't understand at all. So she there was like this huge cycle of like us, like it was a very toxic cycle, but it was us being like, I hate you, I love you, focus on myself, I hate you, I love you, like just that for months. And the real breaking point though was there's one day she sent me a detailed message on why I'm going to amount to nothing in life. And it was a great day. So yeah, so she did that, and then I was in church, and I snuck away to like a stairway, and just like just I don't know, I was just dealing with it, crying my eyes out type deal, being like, and then I was like, hey God, just I don't know, freaking hug me at this point, I don't care, like, but I just felt like he was silent in that moment, and that was like that was probably like the lowest I was like that entire summer, which is a lot to say. That was a lot going on, so
Right.
lost a lot of friends in that time. So it was like a lot was happening at once, and like getting that message was such a breaking point for me. And I think it was one of the things that definitely encouraged me to work harder, later in life. But it was just more like getting that from the one person I cared about really like broke me at the time. So
Right.
now it's more like obviously over the situation, I'm obviously not throwing my life away now. And life
Right.
is life's a little crazy, but at the same time, like, trying to go to church and stuff, I still get a little bit of PTSD from that situation.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, like okay, so there's a lot you said that I'm like trying to process right now, because from what my perception of life is those moments of suffering, those moments of heartbreak, those moments of like discouragement, usually I don't want to say with every situation because everyone's different, but usually it turns into something beautiful. It usually turns into like the one thing that you thought was going to kill you ended up not, making you stronger, or
Yeah.
It just passed and you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like I realized, it hurt at the moment. It wasn't that fun, all this
Right.
stuff, but you get through it and you become a different person or a better person. All these things in life push you left and right in these different directions. And it can feel very disorienting when you're being pulled apart, and then you think like, I'm losing everything. And then it turns out that you were just being rebuilt. Like it was like, it's this whole destruction and creation type thing.
I'm sure. So as it sounds, you are very familiar with the Bible. I know I can't remember the exact verse or anything. It's honestly been a minute since I've touched the Bible, but
Okay.
I do remember a part in there where it talks about being that like everyone is like, I want to say it was like clay, where like you are like, or not clay. It was something to where basically you're melted down so that you could be rebuilt, and like and I love the analogy of that, but in practice it sucks to be melted down.
It really does. It really it sucks.
Does.
Like I finally got that message like recently, like, okay, to tie it all together with religion and stuff like that, and then we'll get back onto talking about videos and stuff.
Oh yeah. You're good.
No, I also grew up in the church. I grew up Christian, and I had a falling out moment too, but it was more of like I just realized I'm like, I'm not as passionate as I used to be. I'm like, I've watched all these like quote unquote miracles happen from different people, and I just never experienced that in my life. Like, I'm like, I've had moments of emotional, like, oh yeah, God is real type of thing. But I never knew if that was true. It was like kind of things started to unravel. I was not that great of a person from like ages 15 to 20. Like I was treating people wrong and just I wasn't a good person, but I
gotta go through it.
Yeah. But under all that, I was calling myself a Christian. And then I hit a point where I was like, I'm like, how, in what way am I representing what Christ did or said or anything like that? And I fell away from it. And what brought me back, it's not even brought me back. It just reshaped everything. And this is, for me, it was, honest to God, it was mushrooms. It was
like it's one of those things where it's like God's in the most unlikely of situations.
Like I heard stories of like, oh, you take psychedelics, you talk to God, you do all this, blah blah. And I was like, yeah.
But then like, what do you grow up in a church hearing those? Like you always like are like, yeah, you're just crazy. Like,
yeah, no, exactly. Like, and that's the issue, is like walking the fine line of you brought up PTSD, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at, was going back to church. I I've gone back to church a few times, and like I appreciate it for what it is. I know like my mom finds a home in church. I know people do, and I don't want to take that away from anybody. But
Yeah,
like
no.
there reaches a point where you're like, why am I here? Like, like, I get why I'm here, but like I can,
No, I felt that way.
Yeah.
I actually had to leave my old church because it was just such like a toxic feeling in my life.
Yeah.
Like I get it.
No, and yeah, but what I was trying to get at was I took mushrooms and, acid and all that shit. And I just started slowly learning things. And when you brought up the clay being melted down and reshaped, talks about it in the Bible, that's how I would feel. I'd have visions of that, of being melted down and rebuilt and melted down and
Yeah.
rebuilt. And it almost feels like it's something's breathing. Like when you breathe out, you got to breathe back in. It's
Yeah.
just a constant, cycle of suffering, death, life, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the hype, is the cycle. And how do you like guide through that without getting lost in it? But that's with spirituality and religion, it's these people that hold on to one single identity and they say, no, this is right. Like you were saying, your mom is like trying to find the right version of
Yeah.
Christianity, the right whatever. But it's like, it's about Jesus. It's about the message and all this stuff.
End
And
of the
with
day,
that,
it's your relationship with God, and it's
exactly.
like, yeah.
Exactly. But okay, let's get back on videos, because I sometimes get way too lost in my own hype on this bullshit.
No, you're totally good, man. Like I said, I'm an open book and got plenty
Right.
to say about all these topics that we're talking about. So
Right. Well, and that's just what that's what I like to talk about. And I feel like, especially in this day and age, we need some sort of something. Like I don't want to say like healing or anything like that, but people, in my personal opinion, I think believers and people who of faith, whether it be Christianity or whatever, they need to be way more skeptical about things and be way more like
yeah.
asking questions. And then the people who are anti-religion or anti-belief and stuff, they need to have just a little bit more faith. Like I think there needs to be some sort of connection.
Yeah. Do you mind if I go on that for a second?
Of course.
So like, so once upon a time back in high school when I was like super freaking like Jesus freak, one of my best friends was actually a Scientologist. And so like, but one of our favorite things to do was debate religion with each other. Like we like knew that the other one, there was basically like this agreement that we couldn't get offended by each other, and like we had to like just be open-minded what each other had to say. And it was really honestly a healthy exercise that me and him had together. But like one argument we had one day was faith versus fact. And like what so like we like talked about it for a while. It was like, so what's like basically everyone always debates like science versus religion. And like at the end of what our conversation came to was what's the difference? So
yes.
like it was kind of like
yes.
If you think about the origin of a fact, it's literally like just like higher up people saying that they think this is right and us believing it.
Right.
And then faith is someone else, someone that we believe is above us saying that this is what we should believe in, so we believe in it. So it's like when you boil it down to that, faith and fact almost came down to the same thing.
Yes.
It's like this weird reality that like I've thought about ever since. And like I kind of like what you said, how like people need to be both more skeptical and optimist, because it's like at the end of the day, a lot of people they've read like a quarter of the Bible, if that, and they believe everything their pastor says. But at the same time, it's like I don't know, it's so much better to actually like go down to the Bible and be like, hey, this is actually what it says about this. Like I trust your wisdom and I trust your teaching, but at the same time, like you need to like not let yourself fall into that, because for one, that's how cults get started. For two, and like I don't know, there's so many things I can go into that, but like
exactly,
that's something I wanted to bring up since you said that.
Well, that's funny. I had an episode of Don't Get Lost in the Hype with Dima, and we brought up how because he was talking about meditation techniques and like how like a lot of people in this day and age, especially, people are open more to meditating and a bit more spiritual side, like Eastern philosophy stuff.
I'm a big fan of all that, actually. So.
Oh yeah, and I know when you like meditate, like I try to do, what is it called? I forgot the correct term for it, but you're just basically aware of everything going on, and you just like letting
mindfulness meditation.
Mindful meditation. I think it's mindfulness. Yeah.
Mindful meditation. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the techniques that we were talking about is just feeling the energy inside of you. But that energy, when you say feel energy inside of you, it doesn't have to be some magical hocus pocus like energy. It can be the blood. It can be the cells that are moving through you. Like,
No, I like that.
Like it's different languages explaining the same thing.
Yeah. No, I love
If
that.
that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, like with that said, so I've actually been like, I don't consider myself like a Buddhist or anything, but I do meditate. I try to do it daily, and I try to like balance myself. And one thing I've looked into is like meditation, where like or like one of the guided meditations where they're like, here's how you balance your chakras, and it's like one thing that I've like. One thing they always talk about in those is like imagine a beam of light going through your spine, and it's like if you look into it, like sure, there's some people who like will say that there's an actual beam of light, but like and at the end of the day, it's exactly what you just said. It's to picture. It's a good imagery to just feel the power that's within your body, so that you can focus on that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's where I'm trying to get people to connect more towards that, because what people, they think about that stuff, they think about meditation, they think about Christianity, they think about whatever, and they go, oh, spirituality, religion, hocus pocus type, like whether they believe it or not, they don't necessarily take it as is. But then like you talk about science and like, health and make
Right.
sure you're working out and stuff like that. And people go, yeah, no, that's good. But like, they don't necessarily want to do all that. So it's like there's got to be some sort of like bridge between the two where we start to realize like we're all doing the same thing. Like,
yeah. Well, one thing I would like to point out with that. So, back in high school, I was convinced I was going to be a psychologist. I was going to go to college for it and everything. But one thing I like studied and looked into that a lot of people don't know, surprisingly, is the 7 dimensions of wellness. Have you ever heard of it?
I have, but
It's like a fun fact that like people like it gets covered for like 2 seconds in every psych class, but it's something I've revolved half my life around. So like it's basically the 7 places you can grow in yourself. So that's so like from a psychological speaking, not like religious, spiritual, anything like that. So like but like so like one of them is spiritual. So like how to grow in yourself spiritually. So that could be anything from meditation to like finding your religion. So religiously, raising your intelligence, physically, just exercising more, getting stronger in your community, getting stronger financially. There's like 2 more. I'm not going to sit here and try and remember, but it's basically the 7 places you can like engage in your life. And the problem is a lot of people look at 1 or 2 of those and like, all right, I got everything figured out. Like I read a lot of books and I work out, or I go to church and I work out. Like they pick like 2 or 3 of those things. And then they're like, oh, I'm fine. Like, but like in reality, it's all 7. Like,
no, and that's the funniest thing is people, and I'm guilty of it too. Like like you said, pick 1 or 2 things, and then they're like, why am I still going through all this bullshit? Like what's going on? Like,
you didn't focus on the finances, or you're not working out enough, or like there's always something. You can always be growing.
Exactly. So how do you grow your I don't know what to call it, your career, like your
like
how do you expand without going too fast? Because that's something Fred and I talked about in the first episode with music, is like releasing
how do you
stuff on time. Like what's your timing like? Like I don't want to unravel all your secrets or anything.
Oh, no, you're good. So honestly, so that's kind of one of the differences also between like photography or videography and music. Is like music, like you have to be like, all right, what season am I releasing this in? Is it a good time? Like with all the events going on, is this a good time for me to release this? Should I take away from the hype of this? Like music, you really got to think about those release dates. Videography, it's more of a push forward and hope for the best. But at the same time, I would relate it to how a lot of people buy gear, how a lot of people pursue higher up clients. So a lot of people will start off, actually, I know one guy in particular, I'm not going to say his name or anything, cool dude, but one thing he did was when he first started, he digged into his retirement fund at 19, and bought a $9,000 camera and said, I'm going to be a videographer now.
Oh no.
So, um, so with that said, it's like, that probably wasn't the smartest move.
Yeah.
You could have, and it's like, it's like one of those things where it's like, I appreciate the hype and I appreciate the excitement for this, but if you would have took 2 steps back, you could have got a cheaper thing with the same amount of clients. Like,
Right.
and it's
Exactly.
like, I think people do stuff like that and then throw themselves in a hole. He's a situation where he actually managed to do fairly well with it.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think that's one story out of a million that happened to go right. I know people who just jump into it head first, like quit their job and say, I'm going to do this now. And then they start to do it and then they feel the stress of everything and they stop. And
Yeah.
it's like literally like if you would have took things a little slower, you could have handled it. Like,
Right. No, exactly. Like I think I brought that up. I don't know if I talked with about that with Fred or Luca or somebody.
okay.
So one of the people I talked with on here, but I think it might have been Fred, jumping into something way too quickly, buying a $9,000 camera when you haven't really done anything else. Like,
Yeah.
I felt the same way about my car. Even like, that's the thing is like, I felt like I needed a car.
hmm
And I went for like one of the more expensive things right away because it was like, oh, it's a nice car. I need a car. Like,
So
oh, blah, blah, blah. And I figured,
basically, you got lost in the hype.
exactly. No, exactly. Like you were saying, no, this guy who bought the $9,000 camera, he got, like you said, he's doing well and that's great, but got lost in the hype of, I'm going to do this. And,
Mhm.
Sometimes it pays off when you take a risk like that.
Mhm.
Sometimes diving headfirst into something really does pay off. And other
Yeah.
times, if you're not prepared, you break your neck trying to dive into
Yeah.
something. Like,
I think the analogy I like to look at is like the mama bird pushing the little
Yeah.
baby birds out of the nest. It's like when it comes to like a creative career, rather that be music, videography, even like freelance like journalism, like there does become a point where you have to jump. You have
Yeah.
to you have to jump, fingers crossed, hope for the best. And I think the difference between people who make it and people who say that sucked, I'm never doing this again, the difference is people that fall and break their neck get back up. Like when you hit that rock bottom, when you hit the point of stress, when you hit the point of realizing this isn't a dream life, then when you get through that, you're solid.
Yeah.
Like
Honestly,
I'd say
that
that's
goes
a big thing.
with what we were saying earlier about how the one thing that you thought was going to kill you ended up being okay. Like the one thing when you get through the worst moment, what you thought was going to be the worst moment of your life, you're like, oh, well, now I have nowhere to go but up, or nowhere,
Right.
I can just continue
now that I've
creating.
hit rock bottom, you like I guess I can go up from here.
Yeah, you almost have more freedom in a sense because you're like, I'm not tied down by anything. Like I can do whatever. That was one of the biggest things is, especially with religion and spirituality, like death and resurrection. Like you're like, this is it. This is my death. Like I've got nothing left. Like this is it. And then once you like get through that, you're like, oh, I have all this room to move. I have all this room to breathe and grow.
See, that's the difference. There's 2 types of people. People who like, they stay rock bottom or they go up. And it's like, honestly, looking back on it, like I've always let rock bottom fuel me. Like every time I hit an ultimate low in my life, I always like if it wasn't for hitting an all-time low, I never would have went to school. Like I never would have went back to school.
Right.
Hitting an all-time low, I never would have started videography as like a career. If it wasn't for hitting an all-time low, I never would have done like half the things I've done that I'm most proud of now. So it's like, literally, like it took that point to get me there.
So suffering is a form of grace.
Honestly, yeah.
And I don't want to use that as a way to dismiss like real honest life situations, like when on with police brutality and stuff like that. Like you can't tell someone who's a victim of police brutality like, oh, suffering is grace, use it as a learning experience. It's like, no, then fuck you. But
so yeah, and I think the thing to think with that is so there's 2 different ways to look at that. So there is, this situation sucks, but it's like it's one of those things where it's like, you're allowed to be weak. Like you're just because you're going through the worst of the worst doesn't mean that you got to jump back up like everyone else.
Right.
Everyone's a whole nother story. Like if you're going through the worst, like by means, take a minute to cry. Like no one's gonna like we're not gonna hate you for like disappearing for a year type deal. But like at the same time, like I kind of like what going back to Gary V. You know, like
Yeah.
I freaking love that man. So one thing that Gary V talks about is one of his like famous videos is like the odds of you being alive. Have you ever seen that video?
No, I don't think I have.
So I think I forget the exact number, but with the statistics between the amount of wars, the amount of sicknesses, the odds of your parents meeting, the odds of everything put together, the odds of you being alive in the first place is like 1 in 1 trillion or
Oh,
something like
God.
that. And the odds of you existing, like you literally have better odds of winning the lottery 9 times in a row than you do being alive in the first place.
Wow.
And
And
it's like
people don't think about that.
they don't. And one thing that he says in that exact video is like, I don't care that your dad left when you were 4. I don't like he gets like really brutal with it. And it's like I love him for being brutal, but like there's some,
Oh,
like but like he says
right.
like don't make the excuse that something happened when you were 9. Move like you don't have to move on, but you do have to keep moving. Like
Definitely.
and it's
Like,
like yeah.
yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, people and it's hard. Like it's people like to hold on to certain traumas or certain things, and that's
Yeah.
not once again, like that's all on the person. Like I don't,
Right.
people can do what they want, but like even me, like sometimes like I'll I'll get pressed about some dude cutting me off in traffic, and like I'll forget about it, and then later in that day I'll be like, God, that guy fucking pissed me off. Like it's like
I
it's
love it.
holding on, but that's like the cause of like Ram Dass. Well, it's not Ram Dass said this, but it's the Buddhist. It's like one of the rules or something like that. I'm butchering it, but it says the cause of suffering is the clinging of mind. When you hold on, when you
I like that.
and what he means by that is not necessarily holding on like with attachment, because attachment, yes, does cause suffering, but also the aversion, trying to get rid of something you don't like when you're
Right.
and that goes with diving headfirst into the chaos and like you were saying, like the mama bird pushing the baby bird out, and the people who hit rock bottom get back up, because if you embrace the chaos, or like that's what I was trying to say when you were talking about if you're sad, definitely cry. That's embracing the chaos, not
Yeah.
trying to get back up and do something else while you're like hurt and in pain. That's not embracing the chaos. That's not being like tough or whatever like that. Like that's just denying your true sense of self.
Yeah.
If you physically, if you have two broken legs, you're not going to be like, well, I'm going to try to get back up. Like it's like
No,
you
yeah, let them heal. If you
let
force
them
it, it's
heal.
gonna make it worse.
Exactly. But if you sprained your ankle and then you can walk the next day and you're still like, oh, I'm
Doesn't
just going to
mean
lay here and I'm not going to
yeah.
do anything. It's
It
like,
doesn't mean you should run a marathon by any means,
right.
but it also doesn't mean you should sit around and hope for the best. Like
Exactly.
and also with that said, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like
Exactly.
so there is that. I'm actually gonna quote I'm gonna quote something from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, hell yeah.
When well actually so the sequel for Avatar. Have you seen Legend of Korra?
No, I have not. I
So
apologize.
I'm no, you're good. I'm actually binge watching it right now because I never saw
Okay.
it as a kid, and
Okay.
it's on Netflix, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
But there's a part in there where Korra, the main character, is mad, and she's talking to Katara actually, and
Mm.
and she's like pissed off, and like and Katara just says like, let your what is it? Let your anger flow like water, and it's like I heard that, and I was like, that is such like a real thing. Like I love that's like one show that I love how
Yes.
real they get, but like for being a
Well,
kids cartoon, they got so real. But
oh, yeah.
like, but letting your like anger flow like water, like literally just letting these things flow, embracing the chaos of it, embracing everything going on, like so much better to just like let it happen
Right.
than to fight it.
Right. And that goes back to the title of this show is how do you embrace, and this is even a question just for you to answer, how do
So,
you embrace the chaos? Like if you're angry, how do you let anger happen without getting lost in the hype of anger? Like how do you like
ooh,
be
I
like,
like that.
how do you like okay, I'm angry at this person, how do I make sure I don't kill them but at the same time don't suppress my emotions? Like
Yeah, no, I love that. That's such a deep philosophical question right there. So like if I were to give my opinion on that, I'd say there's definitely restraints you have to so like there is such thing as pushing too much into it. So I think there's people who push into it. Like for example, there's people who like the feeling of sadness. There's people who like the feeling of anger. There's people who like the feeling of like everything, of like all these like negative feelings. And I'm not saying in the sense of like if like someone in your family passed away and you're constantly sad about it, that's not you liking sadness. Like, I'm not saying that at all.
Right.
But I am saying there are people who force themselves into it. Like, I'm not saying the whole mentality of stay positive, but I am saying like 1 foot at a time, because otherwise you're going to be stuck in the same place. Ooh, I like that. I didn't mean to like.
No, that'll give me chills. Like,
that.
woo.
Yeah, right?
No, that relates so much, especially like, okay, I went from working in a factory for 5 years where I pretty much did nothing but sit at a machine all day, to now I had to quit because racist bosses and I didn't like them, and it was a long drama story.
Fun.
Yeah, it was super fun.
We all go through it.
I had to quit, and obviously I had to figure out what to do. So I was doing DoorDash for a little bit, and then I ended up getting a job at Cousin Subs. And there are days where like we're backed up with orders, and we're like, it seems like it's never going to end. There's just people wanting double cheesesteaks and however complicated they want to make their subs. And I get so overwhelmed, but I always like, it's almost like a meditation. Like, people don't realize you don't have to sit and close your eyes to meditate. Like, you can meditate in traffic. You can meditate while you're going through days. It's just an awareness. Like, I had to reach a point where I was like all these orders are backed up. Okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to get through it. Like, there's nothing else I can do. I can walk away and all this stuff, but that would cause more chaos, because then, all this shit. Or I can get really frustrated and mad and start like, throwing, toppings everywhere or some shit. But it's a process for like, okay, let's do this like one sub at a time. Let's just keep making them, keep going, keep doing it, keep going through it. And eventually there reaches a point where it's like, oh, we have less tickets on the board. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Now, oh, wow. Now we have no customers in here. Now I can actually like clean or like get some shit done. But that's just with life in general. Like, you got all this shit backed up, and it can get overwhelming, especially with what's going on in like the media and politics and stuff. It feels like there's so much shit on America's plate. Like, we have all this stuff we have to carry. It's like, how do we get through it all without getting caught in our own bullshit? Yeah. I'm asking you to solve America's problems.
Oh,
you personally.
Solve America's problems right now.
Yeah,
say it one more time, so I can like really take that in for a second. So, how do I solve America?
Yeah, how do you solve all of the issues that America faces? Because if you can't figure it out, then
Then no one can?
I guess so.
We're leaving the fate of the world on me right now, or the fate of our country on me right now.
Yeah, not the world. Don't get lost in the hype.
Don't get lost in the hype. Just the country. Just a few billion. Only a couple billion people. Not all of the billions.
Right. Exactly. They can figure their shit out. We got our shit. No, but that's the thing though. Is I feel like what's happening right now, and I've said this a few times. I don't know if you can hear my dog whining, but
oh no, he's
okay.
in my ears, bro. You're good.
So, that's the one thing though, is we forget what's happening right now. Is there's all this stuff happening, and we take it as chaos, and it is chaos. But amongst all the chaos, there's all this truth being revealed. Like, things we don't necessarily want to hear, things we don't necessarily want to see, things we don't necessarily want to happen, but things that have to happen, especially with like, not to get too deep in it, but like the whole child pedophilia, sex ring, trafficking ring, all this shit that's been going on. We've known about this for God knows how long, but we're just now being forced to like take a look at it and do something about it. And I think what's happening is all this truth is being revealed, and we're so uncomfortable because we're like, oh, that's gross. We don't want to touch it. We don't want to talk about it. Like, yeah. And so people are either choosing to completely deny it or to finally say, okay, let's fucking do something about this. And that's where all this conflict is happening.
That's such like whenever I hear stuff like that, like I just think of like all the people who have been trying to change this for years, like all the organizations, all the like freedom fighters, all the everyone that's like for years been screaming like, this is a problem, let's fix it. But like 2020 has just been such a year of like forcing us to like actually look at it. And so many of us are uncomfortable because like we're stuck in like the privilege of a small town, or we're stuck in like we think that we like, you know, maybe you saw someone get shot in an alleyway in Chicago and you think you've seen it all now. It's like, no,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's so much wrong with the world. And I think that there's it's crazy because I almost like I wish that some of the world leaders, like I'm not even gonna like just point out the president. I'm gonna point out all of the world leaders.
Right.
There's so much more to it than just one person. And I think if all of them could just humble themselves for a second and look what people are talking about, they could fix it. Like
Right.
there's been so many ways that like just over social media where I've seen people like rant about something and it's like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Maybe if we did that, things would be better. But instead, like world leaders are like, no, I'm obviously a world leader for a reason.
Right.
Like I'm in Congress for a reason. I'm in whatever for a reason. So I should be able to deal with it. It's like,
Mm.
no, you're a human who happens to be in this position. If maybe you just settled down for 2 seconds and listened, you can take into consideration what could actually change. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's such a big thing.
People like to hold on to, like we were saying, attachments and aversions. People like to hold on to old ways and old systems, and they like that. I mean, like if you grow up and you're watching, like, okay, let's put this as an example.
Right.
When I was in high school, I did okay. Like I never really did my homework, but I did well enough to like get through my classes in my days. And there was always this system where people who didn't pass classes, instead of going to summer school, they could go to the library and they would have online classes you had to sign up for. And you could just like sit in the library and do your classes there. And I always like would watch different people do that. By the time my senior year hit, there was like something from my freshman year that I forgot about that apparently made me fail like a semester of freshman English class. So as a senior, I had to take a semester of freshman English, but I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was like, I'll just do this computer thing that I'm always hearing about, like whatever. And I go to them and they're like, no, like we don't have that anymore this year. And so I was like, oh, so I got to actually go to like a freshman English class and sit through it and all this shit. And like, I was so mad because I had been taught that this was the way things go. And now that it reaches my point, like now I can't do that. People like to hold on. If you're told in America, like, oh, if you know, the capitalist dream, if you work hard for what you get and save up money, you can do whatever you want and all this stuff. And people will literally give their lives, destroy relationships, kill people. Like people will do whatever they can to get to the top. And once they get to the top, all of a sudden things change. They're not going to be too happy. They're going to want to cause violence. They're going to want to cause wars. They're going to want to cause whatever. They're like, but what are you talking about? Like, I gave my entire life to get to this position. It's like, well, that was your issue. You gave your life.
You gave your life to be here. And now that you're here, you don't know what life is.
Yeah, you don't have your life anymore because you gave it up. And now
you never knew it in the first place if you gave it over to something.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking is happening with these world leaders and stuff is they're watching the system crumble before them and they don't know what to do. And they're trying to hold on to it and they're trying to like do whatever they can to
trying to keep their American dream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I don't know. We're just two guys talking on Zoom calls.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I always try to avoid politics best
I
can, but I will say I'm a big believer in balance. I'm a big believer in not choosing sides. And I think that true peace lies in us loving each other and less in us saying I'm gonna pick sides. Like I've always thought that it's like I always thought that it was obscure saying that like I'm gonna hate this person because they don't share my opinion on guns or share my opinion on abortion or whatever. Like I always thought that was so bizarre, and I think why should I care what your opinion is on something, even if it does affect my life in a minor way? That shouldn't stop me from caring about you.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm going to keep quoting Ram Dass because he's like the one guy that I like listen to all the time. But he was talking about with a bicycle, you don't just pedal one pedal or else you're going to tip over. You're not going to go very far. You're going to left, right, left, right. You have to pedal both sides. Like with breathing, you don't just breathe out and then you're done. You have to breathe back in. With your heartbeat, it doesn't beat once and then that's it. It keeps beating in and out, up and down, left and right, black and white, like talking about duality, talking about the talking about the was it the Buddhist symbol where it's the black and the white circle,
The yin and yang.
yeah, the yin and yang. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what brain's not
You're
working
good.
right
You're
now.
good. I get it.
But it is what it is. Like there's different sides, there's duality to everything. It's acknowledging that there is duality, but not getting lost in the hype of the duality, not being like, well, obviously this side is better because of this reason and that reason. And well, no, obviously this side is better, blah, 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 blah. But if you deny the fact that there is two sides, or you deny the fact that there is, whatever going on, then you're not engaging.
Right.
Once again, Ram Dass is talking about like people who get so spiritually high, they take so much LSD or whatever it may be. Like these people that get so like intense with their religion or so intense with their philosophies and their spirituality that they're ignoring all the real world shit that's going on because they're so caught and they're like, no, it's all perfect. It's all God. It's all, whatever it is. And they're so into that they're denying real world suffering. But you get caught in the hype of following the real world suffering, always ahead in the news, always figuring out, oh man, this problem's going on. What should I do here? What should I do there? Then you're caught in that. So it's a balance of walking that fine line of like staying aware without getting lost in the hype. That's kind of the whole point of this is.
No, I love that. I love that, like that balance.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, I appreciate it. Well, we're going to wrap up here. Just been about an hour, if that's okay.
Oh, has it?
Just about. It's 8:00 now. So
okay.
I know these go kind of quick.
I was about to say, you have any video questions for me, but I guess.
No, I'll definitely, okay. So here's the thing. I'm going to ask you a few more questions for sure.
Okay. I'll try to keep it short.
Yeah, no. It's not, I'm just saying it's about an hour. We can talk however long. I don't even care. I try to keep them all between an hour or so, but
right.
And then also we're definitely going to redo this again because not like I'm still going to keep this one, all this stuff, but I'm trying to like re-interview people and I'm trying to like get
like part twos.
Yeah. And I'm also trying to get, like I wanted to film it at the new state. I wanted to like get the whole thing
in person.
Of course. So
heck yeah.
Going off of that, like you were talking earlier about, prices and stuff like that with people. You're like, oh, if there's a certain artist, you almost just want to do it just because you're like,
right.
I'm just so eager to do this. I'm not asking you how do you like price things out or anything like that, but like how do you deal with the finances of it? How do you tell people like, okay, no, I need to get paid for this because of this reason?
X, Y, and Z.
You can't. Yeah.
Someone actually just asked me that question not too long ago.
Okay.
Someone who's just starting off and they were like, hey, I have a million questions. And I said, well, I have a million answers. So what's up? And one of the questions I asked was, hey, do you, or basically they're saying how they want to support local musicians, but with that said, they don't want to charge them an arm and a leg. And what I said is don't think about it as overpricing them. Think about it as them taking you seriously and like vice versa. Because like for one, you don't want to work with an artist who's making a music video just to say they made a music video once upon a time. But you also don't want to work with a musician who's going to be a rock star and not treat you right. So like you want to like there's such that balance. And I think a lot of that gets passed by with money, sadly. Because like when someone's like, yeah, I'll pay you right, then it's like, yeah, they are taking this just as seriously as me. So don't I never try to look at it as like, oh, this is them like screwing me over, or I try not to look at it as like, oh, I'm like ripping them off right now. I try to look at it as, no, this is what we're gonna need for me to be able to do this for you, and like that way we can both be on the same page and move on, and there's no complications. I'm not losing money, you're not wasting your time. Like I think it becomes like money is just kind of like that doorway, if that makes sense.
Course. Well, and that was like my biggest thing when because I used to do a little bit of video work. I'm not, and I kind of messed with the idea of like, okay, maybe I could start getting paid for some of this, but I never knew how to like value myself because I was like, I need to make sure I have the money for the equipment, for the shoot and all this stuff like that. But like, I'm always terrified to like send a number or like ask for like just this or that. Cause they're gonna be like, what the fuck? I'm not paying that. Like,
yeah. And the thing is like, that's all in your head. Like,
Right.
I heard a podcast one time, and it was like, people are always like, well, I would never pay that. Why would I charge people that? And it's like, you're not your target market. Like, that's what you got to remind yourself. You are not the person you're trying to sell to. You're trying to sell to someone else. Like,
Exactly.
so like that voice in your head saying like, oh, I'm not going to pay that, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's your voice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the other person could be a whole nother situation. For all you know, they won the lottery yesterday and want to work with you.
Yeah.
Like, don't feel like you're ripping them off. Like, if like, I don't know. I always try to like work with like payment plans, like whatever I can do to like help people do what they need to do. But at the same time, I know to take each other seriously. It just has to be that way.
Exactly. I mean, that goes with like, how many times have you just saw something that might have been kind of pricey, but you're like, fuck it, like I'm gonna buy it. Like, I don't, just put the money down. Like,
Yeah, I think,
and
yeah, it's what do you value? That's what it comes down
right.
to. Like, do you like, and a lot of people, especially like music videos, it's like, do you value your art enough to do it? And my job is to make myself seem valuable enough or look valuable enough to invest in. Because honestly, when it comes to music videos, when it comes to commercial work, you are like, I am their investment. So it's my
Right.
job to be that worthy investment, you know? So,
Right. What was the first music video you shot?
For someone like professionally like, or in
I know.
general.
What was the first time you were like, all right, I think I'm gonna try to shoot a music video?
So I was gonna say, because technically I shot one for myself once upon a time, but that was an embarrassment.
Hey,
Looking back on
but
it,
that you have
that's
to
like,
get that embarrassment out though.
you have to
That's
do it. So my first actual music video that I ever did shooting for someone else was actually Icarus with Fred.
oh, that was the first one.
That was the first one.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
And you were in it.
I was in it.
Yep,
Yo,
that was my first one.
Did you okay? Like when you did you know Fred before then?
No.
You had no idea who he was. You were just like,
the story behind that is him and Mikey were recording the song, and
yeah,
because Mikey was staying like right here in Kenosha, and I was always over there hanging out with Logan and Mikey and Andrew, and Mikey was upstairs recording with Fred. Never met Fred before in my life, and they were recording the song, and he's like, dude, you want to hear this? And I was like, heck yeah, I want to hear it. What's up?
yeah,
So like he shows me Icarus, and I was like, dude, like shameless plug, but do you need a music video? Like, and then like I didn't hear from him for like weeks, but originally it was like, hell yeah. And then like originally it was like, all right, like he doesn't care enough. Like he's just
right.
gonna like find someone who like actually he could take seriously. And then he and then he played Freak Fest, and I was like, dude, awesome performance tonight. He's like, hell yeah, you still trying to do a video? And it's like, hell yeah, I am. So then we met up, got coffee, brainstormed, and came up with the story of what the video is.
That's
So,
dope. That's
yeah.
awesome. Like, and that the fact that was like your first professional video, like I don't know, I would have suspected you had done a couple at least by then. Like
that was kind of the hopes.
dude, like, I mean, okay, it's not a Jay-Z music video. It's not like,
I get it. Like,
but like, I swear to God, like I was like, oh, he had been doing this for a little bit now. Like I was like, oh shit. But damn, like, damn, like, so what got you into like, what made you think like, okay, music videos? Like, is that like, do you think that's like your thing that you do now, or are you just kind of?
So
'Cause I know you also do commercials and shit.
yeah. So in a perfect world, the way I'd love to be, I'd love to make music videos a secondary. Actually, I want my primary to be I always jump back and forth what I want my primary to be, but when it comes to just shooting videos, I would love to do commercial work primarily.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because for one, you can get really creative with it, and business owners love it when you get creative. Like I've done a couple like business commercials, and they love virtual effects. Like people don't would never expect that in like a non-for-profit wants virtual effects, but if you use it right and clean, they love it because it separates them from everyone else. So like I love working with companies, and the thing is, like, when you work with a good company, they want to invest back into you. So like
Right.
not only is there a lot of money in commercial work, there's a lot of creative freedom in commercial work. You just have to prove yourself in a sense. So
Exactly.
I love commercial work. That's what I would love my primary to be, but right now I'm doing more music videos than anything, which I'm not mad about. If I do music videos for the rest of my life, I would not be mad about it at all. I love music. Like
Right.
like I said, it was my dream once upon a time to be a musician, so I almost lived like
Exactly.
vicariously through the artist, and it's like I love it. I don't know.
Because you never know, like, let's say, obviously this is just all like, what's the word? Whatever. So let's say Fred out of nowhere just blows up tomorrow. Let's say he puts
Right.
out he puts out something like Old Town Road or some sort of
Yo,
like
bro,
one.
he's going to. He's
Like,
always
oh,
got
exactly.
some fire. Like,
Exactly. There's no doubt in my mind. There's people I look at, there's artists I look at, and I'm like, yeah, you're good. Don't worry about it. Like,
you're gonna stay here.
right. Like, but let's say Fred blows up tomorrow, and then like people are looking up Fred the Black Kid on YouTube, and then they see the Icarus video, and they're like, oh, like even though it's like kind of old, I'm not gonna say amateur, but it's a bit of more of an amateur video. Like,
It was, yeah.
they're gonna see that,
agree.
and they're gonna be like, oh, this is kind of cool. It almost gives like a personal feel to it, because they're like, oh,
Right.
anybody can do this, anybody can whatever. And then
Right.
let's say like, someone like Baby Keem or some sort of like big artist is like, yo, hits you up, be like, yo, I saw the Icarus video, like I kind of want to do something similar, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Like, you don't know who could just.
You never know, and it's like, yeah, no, that's a huge thing. Actually, I heard when it comes to pricing your videos, someone who does a lot of music videos straight up said, it was like in a YouTube video I was watching, and he was basically like, never, like, if your day rate's on your website, you've screwed yourself over, because like, say for that exact situation, say like Fred blows up and I'm like, hey, I do video, like on the website it says I do videos for this much. Well,
Right.
Ed Sheeran hits me up tomorrow, he's gonna pay me that much. Like,
Exactly.
he's not gonna be like, oh, my budget's like 1 million. Like, he's gonna be like,
right.
oh, you do music videos for that much and you have this good of work, yeah, I'm paying you that much. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
like, that's like, so that's one of those things. And like,
Right.
music videos are such a crazy world though. Like,
Mhm.
one example I want to bring up real quick. I know I'm talking a lot of this, but
No,
so,
expand.
the Panini music video. I don't know.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
know
yeah,
that. Yeah, Lil Nas X. So that like crazy cool music video that is, of like heavy virtual effects, all that. So that was, the budget for that was 10,000. The videographer got less than 1,000.
Wow.
The entire budget went into the music video, and that's not uncommon. Like,
wow.
you do not get into this industry to make money. Like,
Wow.
you get here because you're passionate about it, and you're able to crank out 10 a month. Like,
Hey, I mean, wow, that's crazy to think about.
yeah. So like, that's just kind of the world of videographers. Like, we do this because we're passionate about it. Like, that's another thing I would
Exactly.
love to do, like music videos, like as like a second thing, because like I'm very passionate about them. I'd love to do 1 million of them, but end of the day, like, commercial work I know is going to pay the bills a little more.
Oh yeah. Well, and
So, like,
that kind of goes back to like some stand-up comedians who like they'll do. It used to be you would make all this money being on like a TV show, like a sitcom.
right.
But with TV kind of dying out and streaming and stuff, you don't make as much money. So a lot of these comedians, they say, if you're not a good stand-up, well, this is obviously before COVID too, but like, they're like, if you're not a good stand-up, like, you're probably going to suffer a little bit, because at any point you can go do stand-up and make all this money on the road. You can make so much money as a stand-up comedian.
That's
like,
fair.
which if you're good at it, if you're professional enough, if you can pack a house and stuff like that, the merch, the donations that people give, all that stuff, you
Right.
can make. The way the clubs pay, they'll pay you just stacks of money, and they'll be like, you want a cash or check? Like, they'll just like give you all this stuff. So if a comedian isn't working on TV, if they're not writing for a show, if they're not doing something else, they have to go do stand up to make all their money. That's like their primary. So, because they say it, they're like, we don't,
Right.
they like, I can do all these shows, I can do all these promo things, I can do all this stuff and whatever, but it's not going to feed my kids. It's not going to do this. It might give me a little extra pocket change or whatever, but and that's kind of what you were saying though. Like with music videos, it's like music videos, you love doing them and you'll continue to do them. But if that's not what's paying the bills, you're not going to do it.
Right.
Like,
That's,
as
that's kind of what
primary.
it comes down to. Like, you do have to like, that's something I'm actually starting to learn recently, or like not learn, but realize is a problem
Right.
in my own work, is like, I do too much stuff I like to do. Like, and like in my career as a creative, you have to do stuff you hate.
Right.
Like, and that's what it comes down to, is like, there's going to be that one video that like, there is such a rock star and you got to deal with them. There's going to be that one video, there's going to be that that one client, you know, like for example, I try to avoid weddings like the plague, but at the same time, well,
Oh
not
my
because I hate
God.
weddings, just
Yeah.
because like they're like, I don't know, you can make a lot of money from them though, and like I just know that it's not what I'm passionate about, and I know I can
Right.
invest a lot more of my time and passion into like commercials and music videos, but at the same time, like if I would have took on a couple more weddings in my career, I probably would have had better gear or been a little
Right.
bit more further. And it's like, if I would have done more of that. So I actually am taking on more weddings. Nothing against weddings. I freaking
Of
love them.
course.
They are cool. They just get overwhelming. And I have friends of mine who do like 2 weddings a weekend. And it's like, that's not where I want to be. Like,
Exactly.
I like them. They're fun, but they can get overwhelming. And it's I don't want to be a wedding videographer. I would love
That's
to be a videographer who does weddings though, you know?
that's the one thing that that's the one video I did get paid for. I did one wedding once and I had
Mhm.
no idea what I was doing.
That's a
I
lot of people.
barely
They get their start in weddings. Like that's a lot of people.
I was literally like, okay, so it was a weird situation where I dated this girl in high school. We broke up. Her parents really liked me, all this stuff. Not a big deal. And one day I ran into her mom, and her mom was like, "Oh, like, what do you do now?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm kind of getting into videography. Like, I've been editing and all this stuff."
Right.
She's like, "Oh, I have a friend who's getting married. Do you want to come film her wedding?" And I was like, "Oh," like kind of just like, "Oh, sure." Like, I didn't think it
Sure, why
was actually
not?
going to happen. And then one day I get a phone call, and this lady's like, "Hey, like, I was told you film weddings. Like, could you do it?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, and then
Yeah,
they
let's
ended up
do
paying
it.
me like a few $100 or something like that. It was really nice,
Right.
but I showed up with like a basic ass camera and whatnot, but I knew enough about editing to where I was like, I can make this look better than what I actually know how to do. So
Yo,
I made
that's
like
the
a cool
key.
video, but what was the issue was I sent it to her after it was all done, said and done. Well, I went to the wedding. I had a friend help me out. I ended up giving him some of my cut just for helping me. And they had, they had just as much free beer as you could possibly like drink. And
Okay.
I don't drink a lot of beer, and it wasn't professional at all, but I kept just pounding them back.
Dude, I've done that. I'm not gonna lie. I've been there.
And I was like, fuck it. And I ended up, I was fine. Like nothing bad happened. I never like screwed anything over, but I made the video and I sent it to her, and she was very happy with it. She was like, "Oh, this is amazing." But then there was like something that I was supposed to film that I completely just did not. And then so I was like felt
Ooh,
horrible, and like I was
yeah.
like, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, "This is my first wedding. I'm still learning." And she was all like, "Oh, it's okay," all this stuff. But I felt so bad.
Mhm.
I didn't do another wedding after that.
Dude, yeah. Yeah, no, that's one thing that it's couples are big about. They're like, yo, like this is the one thing you got to get, and it's like
Right.
at that point, like honestly, just like know the 10 things you can't miss and just keep shooting. Like,
Exactly. But all right, man. I'm gonna wrap this up if that's okay.
okay, yeah, no, for sure.
But I really appreciate you talking to me. I think
Thank you
we
for
covered a
having me.
lot of ground, and we definitely need to cover more next time around. Dude, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for talking to me. Is there any last thing that you want to add, talk about, say, promo, whatever?
Is this like the shout out part of the
Yeah,
like
like do you have any shout outs, or is there
um
any, or is there even, if you even have one last topic that you want to talk about? Like, I'm down.
last topic? That's a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
No, you're good. No, I just like I'm so bad at being put on the spot. Like so
No,
like
that's, yeah.
yeah. Um I'd say yeah, no, I suck at that.
No, you're good. If there's
uh,
nothing, that's fine. We'll cut that little part out. It's not a big
oh
deal.
no, you're good. Let people see the mistakes. I don't care. Let people know I'm human. I
Well, and
like
that was my issue with when I was just doing. I just started with audio because I stutter a lot and I get caught up in shit, and like you can tell how
yeah.
I speak or whatever. So I liked audio because I could edit it and it made it feel like it was one smooth conversation. With
Mhm.
video or visuals, it's a little bit harder because then
It's
people
harder
can
to
just
cut it.
they'll see, they're like, wait, that part just jump cut or whatever.
Right.
But
I once upon a time actually I tried starting a podcast back when I was doing music. It was a way to like promote myself as an artist, and it was gonna be
right,
like it was gonna be a podcast about like the musical journey.
right,
And I was excited about it, but I was doing it strictly audio because like I would say it to where I would like like an hour-long podcast, I would re-say the same lines like 5 times, because I wanted to always have like a hype energy in the video or like all
Right.
my stuff. So it was like a constant like, "What's up, guys?" Like, you know, like, and I wanted it to be like that for a straight hour, but obviously I can't keep it that way.
Exactly.
So like it was this weird thing where I just like would like you get, if you like hear the raw version of it, it's a lot of me being like, no. Like,
You're right. A lot of like pauses and awkward like silences. That was like the biggest thing too. Like if my mind would go blank, I'm like, well, I can cut that part out or some shit. But
yeah,
now it's like you got to just keep talking, keep moving, even if there's not much to say. But anyways, I genuinely appreciate you talking to me. I can't wait.
I genuinely appreciate you asking me to be here.
Man, and I can't wait to work more with you and just with everybody going on. I feel like with what's going on with the new state and what's going on with New World Order and, you know, Kenosha, Milwaukee, just everything, like it's going to be a fun journey.
Dude,
So
yeah, no, I'm excited for it. And yeah, no, and obviously, like we said, I do a lot of editing work, I do a lot of video work, so please and thank you, hit me up about that. It's something I'm always doing.
yes,
So like, and you guys are someone I want to work with.
definitely. And for the people listening, do you want to put up your like, you know, Instagram or somewhere to follow you?
I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me my personal Jonny_Nightmare, Johnny without an H, so Jonny_Nightmare, and then my video work is more under Servais Media. So Servais Media is my company, and it's what I do all my commercial work and portrait work and music videos under. So yeah, look me up on either of those. Feel free to hit me up. I am always down to answer any and all questions. So I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at DMing people back for the most part. I suck at it sometimes, but yeah, hit me up, ask questions, and if you need an editor, you know, I'm just chilling. Okay. Shameless plug real quick, but yeah.
No, that's what it's for. So
Yep.
I appreciate it, man. And I'm going to let you go. So,
All right.
hey, don't get lost in the hype. Episode 6. Damn.
Woo!
Woo. All right, man. I'll hit you up later and we'll talk.
All right, dude. We'll talk.
Have a great night.
You too,
Bye.
man.